All right, well, welcome to this week's Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I'm with Old Capital Lending. I'm so glad that you're all here. I am a mortgage broker. We close 5,800 loans a year. I'm sorry, total, $1 billion. And if there's an opportunity to provide debt for you, I'd love the opportunity. We are getting lots and lots of deal flow, a lot of excited investors out there. I am super excited for two reasons. I'm going on vacation next week, so I am going to be pushing it over to Mark Ferreira, who is so kind to join us tonight. We haven't seen him in a while. Mark Ferreira is one of the advisors on the Slack channel and is so good at underwriting. And so he's gonna run the Zoom at 8 call next week. And so he'll probably have a topic of discussion. We haven't decided how he's going to, what he's going to do, if he's going to break out, but please, as always, this is our community. These are the people that really invest in your deal. Now, you may not have one now, but you may have one in the future. And as you know, SEC regulations state you need to have a relationship before you get into it. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that to make sure that you're contacting each other, talking about what you're looking for. If you have a deal currently and you're interested in having us provide some equity and bring some money to the deal, let me know. We can also see if we can announce it here on Zoom at 8. In fact, let's check in with Steve Chan. Steve, what's going on today?
Working on a deal that's under contract and getting ready to close this month. So I know most of the people on this call, but if I don't know you and you're interested in investing, love to have a conversation to understand your goals, become your friend. And, if there's a good fit, then maybe we could talk about a deal I have in place.
Yeah, we like to invest with our friends.
Yes, of course. And I've said this before, but if you missed it, there are other education groups out there that you buy in, you pay $30,000, and you get into a deal. You have limited partners, you have GPs, you have deal sponsors, all there. But not so much here. And so that's what I'm trying to create, is a group of people that are investing in each other's deals. So continue to make those relationships. They are super valuable. Is there anybody new in the house? Who has not been here? Well, Vihano, you're new, so we're gonna hear from you in just a little while. Andy, I think you've been with us before, right? Andy Boris?
Yeah.
Boris? Yeah?
I've only been here before. I had to miss a couple of weeks because my wife had back surgery, but I'm back.
Okay, great. Yeah. Is anybody here working on anything? Hey, Gil, I see you.
Hello, I'm here.
If you guys haven't hooked up with Gil, this guy is on fire.
I am.
This guy is connecting. He's a connector. So make sure if you want to meet Gil, he's a crazy guy. So make sure you hook up with Gil. He's excited. He's excited.
I try.
Is there anybody here working on something that either needs some feedback or has some questions regarding moving forward on an SDA, or what can we help you with? Anybody? Nobody, huh? Steve just dropped his email into the chat box, so if you guys are interested in having a conversation with Steve, feel free. So really interesting how, I work while I'm a lender and I'm your largest partner in a deal. There are people that call me and say, hey, I want to get into multifamily. And I might not know them, but I know of maybe one of you that have a deal. And so yesterday I had an investor call, said, hey, I want to get into multifamily. And my first idea for most of these people is you need to get into an LP. You need to be a limited partner so that you can understand how it is, how the investment works, how you present it to investors, the whole deal. And so I found, this person said, yeah, I want to invest. So I called up Steve and said, Steve, can you get on a call? So we got on a call with this gal who's an investor and potentially will be investing in Steve's deal. So this is kind of how these relationships work. There's a lot of power here. So I would just continue to encourage you to stay close to us, stay close to me. If you have something and you need help, let me know. Jay, it was your birthday. Happy birthday to you. You look like you had a great time on your birthday rowing in a boat, right?
Yep. It was fun.
Well, you have a beautiful family. 3 beautiful girls and a wife. She's a beautiful girl too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really great to see you. Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I am super excited about today's guests. I asked Ray, you go by Ray, right? I mean, Ishmael is your name, but you don't really go by that. We know you as Ray. And so Ray closes a deal just recently, and I asked him to come speak to us because I think there's so much valuable information of learning really the ins and outs of these deals. And of course, when one of us closes a deal, I want to have you back so you can talk about your deal. So Ray's here. Also with Vihano, he's also going to talk about this deal. So I want to introduce first is Ray. Ray has been actively investing in residential real estate since 2005, and he has focused exclusively in multifamily since 2016. He's led, is it called Me or My Real Estate? How do you say it?
MI.
MI, okay, MI Real Estate, investing in 10 multifamily properties in Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee, totaling 382 units valued at $24 million. Excellent. He provides independent consulting to multifamily investors and has authored several multifamily investing articles. He is a retired, as of 2019, thank you for your service, a retired colonel, lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. Let's all give him a round of applause. This is excellent. 28 years, look at that. 28 years of service, my goodness. I don't think I've ever done anything for 28 years. So you are a foreign area officer responsible for providing political military advice on Latin American affairs to U.S. military and civilian leadership. He received an MBA from Columbia Southern University in 2010. And he is fluent in Spanish and may speak a little bit of Portuguese. He's married to Marilyn Reyes and has 2 sons, Ishmael Jr. and Gabriel. And then Vihano is, he is the managing partner and co-founder of Dreamstone Investments, which is a rapidly growing multifamily investment firm with bases in Atlanta and Tampa. Under his leadership, Dreamstone has moved from emerging to an established player in the multifamily space. Among these are his accomplishments: 20 million in assets under management and continuously growing. He has a track record for raising and stabilizing occupancy to greater than 90%. Dreamstone uses a robust vetting process to hire and retain highly capable property management partners and focuses on treating tenants as residents. This holistic, relationship-centered approach helps to ensure effective management and continuity across each Dreamstone property. Before launching Dreamstone, he was a chartered accountant, CPA. And so I want to open up tonight's meeting. Do you guys have a presentation, or are we going to be asking you questions?
So we have a presentation, and instead of bouncing between Vihano and I for the actual presentation, I'll kick off a little bit, and then I'll basically tee up Vihano for the meat of the presentation. And to be fair to Vihano, he was the senior on this deal, and so that was part of why I wanted to make sure that I got him on the show with me, because it would be a travesty if I stood up here and said this is my deal when Vihano had a significant portion of it, including finding the deal. So
Fabulous.
I think that's the way we'll do it.
So that sounds great. So what we'll do is go ahead and share your screen. And then in terms of questions, would you like to answer them? Should I ask them randomly? Do you want to wait till the end? What works for you?
So I think what we believe is we can capture a lot of the questions in just kind of the presentation itself.
Okay.
And obviously I want to leave some time at the end to answer questions as we can on any particular topics. But I think,
perfect.
you know, based on what we chatted, I think I have a good sense of some of the questions. So we can do that if it's okay with you.
Sounds great. You take it away. Thank you, Ray.
Yeah. How do you want me to put my slides up, or you want to put the slides up?
You can put it up, it's fine.
All right, does everyone see that?
So,
Yep, we can see it.
Okay.
yes, I can give, Ray, I just give a little brief summary about this deal. So we at Dreamstone have been actively investing in Tampa for the last 3 years, just under 3 years now. I started my investing career with a duplex in Tampa, then acquired a 7-unit, and a 14-unit, and a 59-unit syndication, and then 56-unit syndication, and then this 90-unit syndication that we just completed. This deal came about just as the coronavirus fully hit. So it was just about March. When everything kind of shut down, we kind of everything kind of fell apart, and I spoke to one of my mentors, and we ended up just discussing about what happens. Is this similar to 2008? Is this what should we do? And interesting enough, he decided he told me you should just continue on through this panic, because now you're gonna have less competition out there. And which is sound advice. I mean, he has over 2,000 doors that he owns personally. So great mentor to have in this multifamily space. And, I followed his advice. And at that point, we had a portfolio of 139 units. And, we're actively looking to get to at least 500 or 1,000 by fourth quarter. But this being the beginning of second quarter, we saw everything kind of slow down, and I reached into my my contact list, and I went back to all the brokers that I've previously done deals with, and just contacted them. I actually flew down to Tampa the week before they put the shelter in place, so I toured a bunch of deals with some of the key brokers in the area, and this was actually supposed to be a 110 unit deal. There was another 20 units that was part of the portfolio. And basically, I think, Ray, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, go to the next slide. Yep.
So we can do, Vihano, if you want, so we can get, because I know there were some questions, we can go to some of the just the intro on, Julie did a fantastic job of covering a lot, but if there's anything on there that you want to chat before we get into the deal itself, I think it would be useful, so we don't jump back and forth too much.
Right. Yeah, so just as an intro, it was supposed to be 110 unit, and we decided to drop the one deal based on not meeting our requirements. But very long negotiation period, lots of back and forth, and we'll get into those deal specifics once we get there, especially when it comes to lending, because that was the interesting period, especially March and April. Cool. So I guess we've done the background, so we can,
So as far as the team composition, and I'll just kind of jump in because I think it's important for the group to sort of understand how we've worked. I know there have been some members of within the Slack channel that have decided to basically merge into one entity. And there is another way, which is what Vijano and I have done, obviously Dreamstone and MI Real Estate, which is basically partnering on deals in a way that we're both part of that deal. Obviously, when we syndicate, we go into an LLC anyway, but it's a way to conduct transactions to allow maximum flexibility for both of us. So if one of us wants to pursue one deal, has money, doesn't have money, whatever the case is, we can kind of proceed with or without our other partner while still consolidating where we can. So in this case, the beauty of it, and Vijano, he's got great contacts. And so it was easy for me to kind of plug into the bigger Dreamstone team and be part of this transaction and others that we've done. So it's just a way. And so from MI Real Estate, the way I run my business, it's basically myself, and I contract just about everything else outside. That's kind of the way I run this entity because I want maximum flexibility. So Vijano, I don't know if you want to jump a little bit and talk a little bit about Dreamstone and the way you're composed.
Sure. Yeah. So Dreamstone, from the get-go, when I have a corporate background. Talk about my background. I'm originally from South Africa. Came over here in 2011 with Grant Thornton CPAs, and down to Florida, down to Fort Lauderdale. I spent about 7 years in public accounting, and switched over to management consulting with a small boutique firm called Siegfried Group. That's where I got into larger clients. I spent time with Wells Fargo, commercial real estate, commercial banking. It's really their division called wholesale banking, and which is interesting because I did a reorg of their division, and I got to spend a lot of time with the folks on the deal desk side to see how they underwrite deals and document, understand the process, and improve communication and the whole kind of end-to-end process. I then moved on to Johnson & Johnson at a large supply chain finance project out there. We acquired a $3 billion company, and I integrated those people into systems, processes, and technology into J&J. And then after a while, I just realized, well, okay, I've done all these M&A transactions and kind of business acquisitions and so forth. And I decided when we started Dreamstone, this is going to be a business, so we structured as such from the get-go. So, Nick and I, my other business partner, he has a construction background. He understands. He actually works for a subcontractor who does framing, and they subcontract for Lennar Homes and all Pulte Homes, all the large home builders in South Florida. Nick is based out of Tampa. I'm based out of Atlanta, and we cover the Southeast via this platform that we've created. We have subsequently grown, added an investor relations manager, and he handles all our communications, all our marketing, production, all that kind of stuff, with integrating that into our investor management platform, so we can handle thousands of investors at the same time into our platform, and basically becomes a CRM. And then I have a new partner, Joe, who's helps me with underwriting, helps me with deal negotiation, finding deals, contacting brokers, pinging brokers again. Hey, how's it going? Do you have anything for us? And that's been great to just keep the pipeline growing for us to meet our goals and targets. So yeah, that's kind of how we've set up Dreamstone. And the way we've set up is so that we can partner with folks that, if they have a specialty in, in the specific deal, we actually partnered with another group called Brick Street, and their friends and family is a little bigger than our friends and family. So we just joined our friends and family together and took on this deal. I actually met Ray at a Dealmaker Live in DC in 2018.
DC.
And yep, it was cold, but it was a very, very cool experience. Yeah, we were doing the networking rounds that Michael does. And yeah, it was very, 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 very good opportunity. I miss those days when we could actually gather, pre-COVID days. So it was awesome. So met a few people there, and Ray and I just kept in contact, and sending emails or text or phone call. I've got this deal. Can you help me with it? Underwrite that, that kind of thing. So it's all about that networking and staying connected. Follow through, right?
Absolutely. The one thing I did fail to mention that I think is interesting, and some people may want to pursue it, is I actually have an intern that works for me. So he reached out on LinkedIn, and we've had an opportunity to work together. Now he's helping me underwrite deals as well. So there's some opportunities out there for folks that are hungry. If you've got time to teach them, there's some folks out there that could be part of your team. So it's a good point there. So I guess we could roll onto the target market considerations. And Vahano, I know you and I both agree that Tampa is a fantastic market and continues to be a fantastic market. But maybe on this particular deal, maybe you can kind of touch on what were some of the things that attracted you to the deal.
Well, it all comes down to scalability. It all comes down to invest where it makes sense. For us, it makes complete sense to invest in this specific area of Tampa, because we already own 59 units in that immediate vicinity. So I was looking for an opportunity to utilize my property manager or leasing manager to take on more responsibilities in the area. And then also my maintenance guy, so I can have him utilized at all these additional units, which brings down the costs, which, obviously increases the NOI across the portfolio. Why I like the university specific area or it's called Uptown now. Tampa went on a renaming or rezoning. It wasn't really rezoning, but the renaming convention. So they've gone with the Midtown model. So there's an area called Midtown, and there's an area called Uptown, and then obviously downtown Tampa. So they just kind of rebranded that in, I think it was like 2017. So a lot of good work's been going on there. Lots of dollars has been flowing down to Tampa in terms of infrastructure spending, expansions in the hospitals, the schools, the university. This area used to be called University because the University of South Florida is over there. Yeah, South Florida. I always get confused with Central Florida is the one in Orlando. But so very close there, lots of jobs, as a driver from the university, lots of drivers from the medical centers out there. There's a cancer center that just put in a $400 million expansion. There's a mall that they did. They basically shut down this mall, and now they're rebranding it to the Uptown Mall, which is going to be an open air mall area. So it's going to create new jobs over there. And just a lot of good things going on about Tampa. Good population growth. People are moving in. Pretty much, I think it's like 15 people a day, some stat like that. Yeah, and that's kind of why I like growing populations, good jobs, diverse job mix, and not focused on just one industry like Orlando, which seems to be really hard hit with tourism. Whereas tourism's not it's certainly a part in Tampa, but it's not the main driver.
No, absolutely.
Anything else to add there, Ray?
Yeah, you got that. I mean, ultimately, for me, I try to kind of boil it down to three things, which is, and Vahano mentioned them. You want to follow where people are going. There should be an increase in that population. There should be an increase in job opportunities, and GDP should be growing. Those are kind of the three big things that I look for in a market over time. And then the one other thing that I focus on is what are the risks in that particular market? Does it have rent control? How's crime? If I'm looking at a specific submarket, those are kind of the key risks that I look at. And when we look at this deal, it just, that area that Vahano mentioned, that area right next to the University of South Florida is highly gentrifying right now, and it's going to become, it's kind of a C+ area, and I think it's kind of bordering on B right now, just because of all the economic drivers going there. So yeah, that's good. Okay, so I guess, Vahano, if you want, I can kick off. I can let you run through the deal. I know you started, and I got some slides that'll help us with that. And then as far as questions, I mean, if there's something on a slide that somebody that specifically wants to address, if they want to just message you, Julie, and you can kind of let us know. That way there's some flow to it, but at the same time, we're not having to kick back and forth through slides if it makes sense to ask the question.
Makes sense.
Okay, so here we go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this deal, $6.2 million deal. Again, the reason why I like this deal, and the reason why I saw a question pop up, like, what were the challenges in this deal? There were many challenges, especially the times that we were in. Starting this in March, only closing in July, so it was a long process. Not that we didn't have the capital raise; it was more of, was there a lender? Was there a, so anyway, what I liked about this deal was we bought our previous deal at $64,000 a unit, which at the time was the lowest out there. Like, they don't even use our deal for comps because I batted the previous owners down on the pricing. And, it was definitely a good price per door at that point in time. What we've subsequently seen since we closed Oakville University, we've seen a tremendous growth in the price per door in this specific market. The typical comps in this area was about $98,000 when we closed this deal. So even if the market dropped, talk about risk, even if the market pricing dropped, which it most likely won't, depending on other factors such as the interest rates being severely low and lots of interest in this area. We at least have a buffer for that compression, so we're not buying in an overheated market and taking on that risk. So we managed to get a COVID credit based on just the lender reserves coming in, and there were plenty of times in this deal where we thought that just there was no lenders out there, and we actually we just kind of kicked the can down the road, but we didn't give up on the deal, right? So the numbers made sense. The lenders liked it. It's just like, well, now you have to do P&I, and you have to add this replacement reserve, and you have to do all these other things. So, until we got that CARES stimulus, after that came through, I think, lenders started opening up again. Fannie came back to the table. Freddie was still being a little iffy, but we ended up going with Fannie Mae because we had closed 3 other deals with them before. We went with our lender, who's Arbor Lending out of New York, and I have a pretty good relationship with them, so it just made sense at the time to continue that relationship. Again, we liked the deal because it's the right price. We bought it at the right price. We have the management strategy. We know exactly what we can raise the rents because it's literally a street from our other properties, obviously we can see there's tremendous growth in the exit price here. So we really like this cost basis that we're in, potentially our exit will be pretty significant.
It's funny because the Oaks property, just to kind of stress this point, it was 64 a unit 2 years ago. And so to go back and take a look at this thing and have it come out to a little over 68 a unit, it's just a fantastic deal. It's like you kind of, those are the ones you wish you saw all the time. So it was just a no-brainer.
You don't see them. Well, and so let me break it down. So this is a 68 unit and a 22 unit. And the way we got the 22 unit was actually a wholesaler that brought it to us. And the reason why this is so low is because the cost basis of that unit, it was $50,000 a door. And we couldn't understand, like, why is it so cheap? Turns out distress in the family, just the perfect set of combinations here. Out-of-state owner bought the place for his daughter. They moved down to Florida. She got married. The husband was the property manager, and now, you know, the husband and wife are getting divorced. And what turned out, you know, to be a good investment turned into a very bad investment for them, and in terms of family relations, and they just wanted to get out. You know, fast forward, you know, this was probably the 22 unit was probably the hardest deal we did. It was unsophisticated, a mom and pop operator, handwritten financials. Guy would not budge on anything. Like, did not understand that why we didn't have a commitment letter until like a few days before we closed. Did not understand like all like the basics. So he ended up going to a broker that we had closed with before, Marcus Millitrap, and he basically ditched the wholesaler, went to a broker. He's like, well, I don't know, you guys, I need to make sure I'm represented. And long story short, we got the deal closed, but you know, that broker no longer has hair on his head. He's pulled out all his hair.
I have a question for you. Was there anyone else competing on this deal against you, or was there a best and final situation?
No, these are all off market. We only do off market deals.
Well, but there are many people that get into off market, and you find, you know, 60 people with offers. So you were just your own competing against yourself.
So if I could kind of jump in, Vahano, there was actually, it's funny you say that, because when I was kind of talking to the deal to some of the folks that I knew, there was actually an individual that came up to me. He's like, how'd you make that work? I took a look at that property. There's no way the numbers work. You know, it's like, he's like, well, that at the time I couldn't give him a number, but it was like, you probably saw bits and pieces of this from somewhere, but you probably didn't get the price that we got. And, you know, so that played a big role, because of course you're right. People kind of they see these things, and, you know, these off market deals, they go to, you know, a distro list that's 100 people or whatever sometimes. But, you know, thankfully we had the relationship that we had. Vahano had the relationship that he had, and the circumstances. Sometimes it just boils down to timing. The timing worked. And so I think those are the key. But I don't know if you want to add to that, Vahano.
Yeah, I think so. So sure. You know, yeah, of course, when it's off market, there's lots of competition. I think what was important was we owned in the area already. So it made a compelling story to the sellers on their end to say, okay, these guys are in the market, they've got properties there, they've got the property management, they've got the game plan. It's a no-brainer, you know. So I think that helped us a lot, you know.
Definitely. So did you take these down as two separate loans, two separate properties? How far apart are they?
So we could have taken a contiguous, but if we brought in that last deal, so we kept it separate. Financing got real wonky at the end. Two separate loans, still Fannie Mae. We had to do a small balance loan on the one, and then we did, because our pricing was so low, we decided to incur a higher interest rate and go for the Fannie hybrid to exit on this earlier, because 68 a door, the market's doing 98. We most likely gonna exit in the next 3 to 4 years, or at least refinance once we execute our business plan. So we ended up taking the hybrid approach on this one, which cost us a little bit more in interest, but 4.05. But I've got the freedom to exit. I think what a lot of people get stuck into these days is the yield maintenance craziness. And I actually have 3 other deals under contract right now, and some of them before there were other deals that came across my desk, and they were just like, well, their prepayments like $2-3 million, which is just it's painful just to think like you've done your business plan, you've raised the rents, but now you can't exit, you're basically trapped in that deal. So you gotta be careful on your financing too. So yeah.
That's great information, because a lot of investors don't know about those 2 different options. So thank you for sharing that. And once again, you're at right around 4 with step down prepayment penalty. So that's fabulous.
Accelerated step down. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Keep going.
This is just kind of the location of the properties. So our rent upside. So we already knew, going into this deal, we know where the market is because we have units in the area. Just the as is rent upside is about $132 across the board, which, that's pretty good considering where we're at in COVID. At the time, our strategy was, well, we'll hold for 12 months. However, based on our actual properties, we were noticing a tremendous amount of drive-through traffic. So we track all our metrics based down to, where you applied from, is it, a drive-by, is it a walk-in, is it somebody from Rent Links, or is it someone, from apartments.com or whatever, Craigslist. So we track those metrics, and something that we noticed was during this period, we had something like 70 inquiries a week, which, that we only had a 59-unit property. So, it does make complete sense to go in. And even if we just burned off the loss to lease, we would still be adding value there. So that'd be $132 there. And then if we renovated, our budget being $6,400 a unit, which is typical of what we spend in that neighborhood, depending on the condition, some a little bit more. So guys, it's never what what's on the spreadsheet. You always have to have some fluff in there, or contingency is the appropriate word. And with the renovated unit, we probably see about $200 additional effective income per unit. So the strategy there would be to phase it in. See who, once you take over a property, you have natural attrition, so people leave, and then, you attack those units first, upgrade them, and see what the market will take, and then do a kind of a cost benefit analysis. So we'll say, okay, this one is really close to target, so do we add the backsplash? Do we add whatever? No, maybe we'll just clean it and rent it, see how far we can push it, and then if a unit needs work, we'll get that up to a nice standard, and then get that premium. So we'll attack it from both ends. That way we execute our plan, on a phased approach, and not, I think it's appropriate for this time. It's not it's a 94% occupied building property, so it's not vacant. So, you have to phase it in and keep the cash flow rolling.
Did you find that the occupancy remained high and delinquencies were minimal during the COVID, getting into it?
Yes, touch wood, thank goodness. It was very minimal. We saw about 4% in delinquency, and those culprits were the same culprits that were late previously. So those are the folks on the way out for the most part. What we did, which we do strive to turn tenants into residents. I mean, that's the key, right? I don't want to deal with turnover. Turnover is expensive. So we tried our best to engage our residents by saying, okay, you pay your rent by the second. The first 10 who gets that gets a Target $100 gift card. You know, because we figured people would rather go get their groceries, you know, in this time, pay their rent, get an extra grocery charge, and that really helped. It actually kept the collections, the actual collection day rate very, very, you know, very high. So we collected like 90% by day 3 kind of thing, which is great. You know, you lose a little bit of money in, like, you know, tenant engagement costs, but, you know, now they know we care about them and that sort of thing. So hopefully, and then the people that we're going to pay will pay, and the people that don't, well, don't. So it's kind of like one of those things, like, do we take the risk? You know, I think it played out in our favor during
Great strategy.
at least
Really good strategy. Now, this area being close to the university, do you anticipate a large amount of student tenant base, or, you know, for lending purposes, you've got 25%. So where was Arbor concerned about that?
No. So this is more workforce. This is you know, more your typical workforce area. Can you put students in there? Sure. You know, it's a little north of Fletcher. So, you know, my business partner grew up in Tampa, and he said, you know, 10 years ago, you would not be in this area. 10, 15, like you wouldn't want to walk there. But, you know, the amount of capital that's flowed into it has just really turned it, you know, completely around. Like Ray said, the gentrification. So it really has that path of progress happening there, which is exciting. And it's good to see neighborhoods get better and you know, people actually spending the money. Our previous property was, you know, just on a sidebar. We bought that property from an Asian group that, you know, I think we had 7 closings. So 7 different, like you know, I'd never do it again, but I've done it. I've done it before. I've gotten the T-shirt, but, you know, we found all kinds of atrocious stuff, like under the roofs. The roofs were a big nightmare. We saw there were leaks and evidence of leaking, so we budgeted for it and got a credit from the sellers. And you know, when they actually went to go up on the roof, they found, like, you know, double shingling, which you're not allowed to have in Florida. So, you know, just to show you, like, the context of, like, what was going on in this area. So they had architectural shingle, which is the larger architecture tile, over the regular tile, and then in between they found, like, shower curtains stapled in, like, weird stuff like that. So, you know, us going in, putting in proper roofing and painting and cleaning, doing the you know, the paving and just really turning this thing around has paid significant dividends to us in having a qualified tenant base that through COVID stayed very consistent, which was good, you know. Thank God.
So I do want to make a couple points here, and I think it's really important, and you identified it, that having properties in one area, you become a source where sellers will come to you and say, hey, I've got properties, right? I mean, now they know Vahano is the guy to be bringing this opportunity to. And a lot of us, you know, we talk about, well, where are you looking? And I'm looking in Michigan and Tampa and Arizona. It's like, you know what? Really dial down to see, you know, you've had success in looking at one market and really, you know, deep diving into that. And this is, you know, talking about how many properties you have. It just confirms that this is the right thing to do, and it makes it easier, right? I mean, once you get in, you're the person that they're going to.
Right.
Would you agree?
And I agree. I think that absolutely speaks volume to what we've created here.
Yeah.
You know, I have brokers sending deals all the time, like, hey, the seller, this is off market before it goes out. I get a look, you know, and I'm like, no, that's a little too heavy of a lift, so I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not interested in that. You know, well, Yeah, right now, I think, from a Dreamstone perspective, we've obviously evolved. Now, with me being in Atlanta, my networking is obviously focused out here. We've got a 100-unit under contract over here in Atlanta, a 220-unit in Birmingham, Alabama, that we're working very close to getting under contract. And then I'm also developing a 19-unit townhome development small development up in Nashville, Tennessee. So finding those pockets of opportunity, really, it just starts coming to you. And I'll just be honest, this is not something that I've been trained for, whatever. Like, I started just like everybody here, and it's networking and just doing Jim Rohn says every day you just got to set that sail, and 10 years is going to come, and whether you can set the sail and you'll know where you're going to be at the end, right? If you don't set your sail, you could just be spinning around in the ocean. So
the other point, Julie, that you mentioned, when you talk about markets are important. You obviously want to pick the right markets. You want to do that before you look at properties. But before you look at properties, you need to have a team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to get ahead. They want to look at a market. I want to go. I want to go there, and I'm going to start looking at deals. But no broker is going to take them seriously when they don't have people on the ground. And so they catch on real quick, right? You can only bluff so long, before they go, yeah, this guy's not serious, and then you really piss them off because they're like, now this guy wasted my time or gal. And so Vahano's right. I mean, we've looked at markets, but we've got people in those markets. And if I don't have a person, I'm looking for a team, an operator, somebody that's in that market so I can latch onto them and work with them so that I become part of their team. And so that's kind of, a different approach, but it's basically the same thing as looking for people that can execute, right? And so that's the key, and brokers will catch on.
Fabulous. Hey, let's get back to when you took this over. Did you do an introduction that the new management was coming on board? How did you let the team, or the tenants know that there was new management? Did you do a dinner or a potluck or of some sort? Tell us a little bit about that.
So no, we don't do a dinner just because of social distancing right now, right? You want to be safe. So we did new banners, new signage that went up 2 days before close. We asked the previous seller if they would allow that, and they said that's fine. And then just new name under new management until we have our new signs there. And we go and we post notices on every door. This is the new person. This is the this is your new contact. This is who you can speak to. So we have our leasing manager or leasing agent, Laureen. She goes out and she goes and introduces herself to all the residents. So she'll knock on their door, just get their information, that kind of thing, enter it into our system. And then she can blast out communications to them that way.
Fabulous.
But yeah, no, I would, if we could, just the world is a different place right now.
Yeah. Interesting. Is there anything that came up that, you talked about the roofs, but was there anything that came up after taking over that you said, oh, we didn't anticipate this, and now we have to put in another 30, 50, 100,000?
No, I think nothing significant like that. I think the most, one of the good comments that we got so one deal was with Franklin Street and the other deal was with Marcus Millichap, and the other one was with CBRE, so that would be a fun party. They all owe me dinners now. But anyway, so the Franklin Street broker actually told us he was very impressed with the amount of due diligence that we did. Lots of thorough questions that he hasn't seen before in a acquisition, and we're just following our own internal developed checklist that we things that we've done wrong in the past and you make sure it's on the checklist now so you don't miss that again. So continuously evolving and learning, through those processes. But important is to keep that system going. We did find out there was something silly like, the current property management didn't even know that there was a renewal clause in there with like their trash, and it was going to cost them, or it was automatic renewal, it cost them like additional 30% in that year. So we just said nope, we're going to cancel that, and we ended up highlighting that, and the management didn't even know. They didn't know that clause was in there. So there's simple things like that we caught. We know there's areas that we need to go spend capital on. So there's some plumbing things that we need to make sure that we, I think it's called honing out the tubes and whatever, nothing broken, but just preventative maintenance stuff that we've got to take care of. So touch wood, nothing major yet, and we'll hope to keep it that way.
Fabulous. Were there other GPs?
I was gonna say the biggest thing on this thing, and it was really before closing, is it's all of the reporting requirements back to the lender, right? That they're being a little bit more, they're being strict. They're really wanting to make sure they dot their I's and cross their T's, and every time there was a reporting requirement, it required us going back and dealing with a tough seller, right? And so that made the deal kind of a little bit difficult, because it was,
it was incredibly difficult. So
very challenging.
I will bring this up because it was, you do this now in your, just advice for you guys doing deals now. Do this now in your contract. Just make sure you have bank statements and collections. The banks want proof. It used to be you can get around like, no, they really do. They want to see bank statements. They want to see collection data. Don't let them give you this BS of, this nonsense of, we are on a cash basis or whatever. Go find out what their write-offs are. Go find out what their outstanding AR is, and don't give them don't let them push over on that. So, what happened on the 22, which the seller was just like, he was like, well, I'll do the financials through June, or something like that, well, through May, and that's it. That's the last. And we got a contract amendment, and I was like, what the hell? So anyway, we got an extension, and the lenders waffled around a little bit, and then June came around, and they were like, hey, we need June, and he was like, no, and it was like all this back and forth, and we another strategy, guys, if you have earnest money, and you're going to do the deal at this point, right? We in the lending phase, we're going through the appraisal phase and all of that. If you have money that's gone hard, you can release some of that money to the seller. So what that means is that money actually goes out in a wire to his account. So he feels more comfortable that, the deal's going to close. So you don't necessarily have to put up more money or do anything like that. So if I put $100,000 at the table, I'll say, hey, I'm going to release $50,000, and you just tell escrow to release that. And that worked. I don't know if that works every time, but it's just something to put in your toolkit if you do end up with a sticky seller or something like that, just to give you more time, or give the lender more time to do their thing. So.
Couple things. We've got about 6 minutes, and I know that there's just so much information that and questions we have. So why don't we go ahead and finish with yours, and then we'll kick it off with some questions.
Yeah, I mean, so this is just the kind of the equity stack and our source and uses kind of thing that we put together. Nothing that we haven't spoken about. I think we could just move straight into questions.
Well, let's make sure this is your contact information in case we want to get a hold of you, just to email you, or do you have a phone number? How do you like to people to contact you?
Yeah, so you can. That's my direct email, or info@Dreamstone Invest, and that will get to me by my investor relations team, and we can. If you need anything urgently, you can reach me at Viano@Dreamstone Invest.
Okay, that's excellent. There are some questions. So were there other GPs in the deal?
There were some smaller GPs that were in our 59 unit before, so we invited them to partner with us again. The other group that, again, the majority of it was basically Dreamstone and Brick Street Capital that partnered on this one.
So how many people do you have on the GP? Do you try and keep it small?
I do, because our first deal was, I think we had like 6 or 7 GPs or something like that. I mean, look, we're trying to get that deal done. So, everybody's got a task to do. We've followed the SEC guidelines, there's all of that, but, it becomes a reporting nightmare. So we try to minimize it by having a few folks involved, whether it's, your entity. And the way we structured that now is to say, okay, if you are going to be a GP on any of our deals, we typically, we want to see at least $250,000 coming from your end into the GP. However that happens, that's up to you, but, and we expect an active role in the deal. So whether that's helping us with due diligence, ongoing asset management, the reporting, that kind of thing. It's very hard to do that with 8-10 people, but, it's definitely possible, to JV and do it that way, but yeah.
Interesting.
In the syndication,
have you taken anything to full cycle?
We did one of our own personal deals, so that we started with a duplex, and then we bought a 7-unit. We actually bought that for $175,000 cash, and then we renovated 3 of the units and sold it for $380,000 about a year later. So no syndication deals in, but that was all I needed, because I'd done M&A and all this stuff before, and and I'm like, okay, I know I've gone through a full cycle disposition, all of that.
Excellent. What do you try and reach on your cash-on-cash returns?
So we try to keep it at 9%, depending on the deal. So I've got some B-class deals in the pipeline that the cash-on-cash is a little bit lower, but I know my demographic is much more stronger. So I've got white collar workforce housing. Well, not workforce, yeah, but strong jobs, strong economic areas. The higher cash on cash I'm seeing, that's when it's a little bit more your C pluses and C minuses and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Capital raising. A lot of us are worried about that piece of it. When you got into this, how did you get investors? How did you keep them? Have they gone on other deals with you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, your CRM is key, right? It's something that I learned when I was a management consultant. It's called, the 7 touches of a client. So you've got to, touch points and make sure that you continuously follow up, continuously, hey, how are you? Just keep engaged with those folks. We started with basically Nick and myself, and we just put our money together, and then we had some other friends that came in, and then we partnered with a similar group like this. So we met people, like-minded people, and they had larger friends and families, and then it grows from there. And then what we put in place was our investor portal and our investor software, where we obviously tracked our interactions, communications happened straight from that, which was important to stay in touch with them. And it's easy to, I remember our first syndication was manual. We were, getting documents in and all of that. Now we have a platform, we DocuSign online. It's a very, very streamlined process. Basically 4 steps, and then you've signed a subscription agreement, operating agreement, and PPM, and you're ready to go. Send your wire over, and that's it. So we've worked on that piece to make sure that because it's so hard with some folks. It's, going through this mega documents and all the questions. So you try to make it as smooth and easy as possible.
So I would say the other key is, and honestly, investors, they get the word out to other people. When they start getting that check, or that ACH or whatever it is, that however they're getting their money, and it's to their liking, the word gets out. One, it gets out to others, and two, they probably have some more money that they need to do something with, and so they come back. And so the best compliment that they can give an operator or somebody that is part of of the GP is to come back and work with you again, because that means that they're satisfied with what you're doing. And so I've had a chance to work on several different teams, and you can certainly see the investor relations piece differences, right? And so so that I think is a key, and it's a tribute to the deals that that Vijano's putting together and that we're executing on, is that we are getting people coming back and asking for more.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've invested in all 3 deals that I've syndicated thus far, and it's gone progressively higher and higher. 50,000 and 100,000 and 150,000. So it's been interesting.
So do you typically use 506C or 506B? What do you like to
right
do?
now we're at B. We're at B because not all our, I think on our last deal, I think about 70% were accredited. So we're growing to that phase where we could potentially do 506C, but I think, for now we're going to stick to 506B. I still have a lot of colleagues that old colleagues and past, clients of mine that, I don't think they're accredited, but I know they've got cash sitting in IRAs and all that kind of stuff that, that could be put to better use.
Have you found that investors are at this time during COVID open to investing, or have you found that your investor pool is kind of sitting back, not sure, maybe I'll do a little bit, but not necessarily up to 100,000? What is your temperature there with your investors?
Our investors have been, like I said, with our investor relation part, I think that's been, and Ishmael can talk to that, but it's really important. So we're keeping them in the loop every step of the way. We're keeping them, tuned into exactly what the pulse is at Dreamstone, so they know, hey, this is coming up. So every time we close a deal or send a communication, we send out feeler. If you're ready, if you're interested in investing, we've got something coming up in Nashville, we've got something coming in Alabama, we've got something coming up in Atlanta. So we've gotten a bunch of soft commitments that way. I think, I haven't seen any slowdown, and I've also been approached by other brokers that broker actual equity and debt. So, they'll place both pieces. So that's interesting. I haven't explored it yet because obviously there's a placement fee and all of that. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions here. Where are newer investors coming from? Are you finding it from other people, references, social media? Where are you pulling those new folks from? Just word of mouth?
So again, word of mouth, people that know people, just tell people what you do. I just spent the last couple of weeks up in Virginia Beach, just hang out with some friends, and I just told them what I did, and their parents were like, hey, can we have a call next week? I'm interested in investing. Just telling people what you do, it's amazing what happens. We actually had several folks reach out to us last weekend based on a Bigger Pockets post that we had, and they're interested in investing with us. So that's going through our funnel with our investor relations manager. And then again, just networking with folks and just,
Nice.
I think. Yeah.
Now, is your marketing, is that done in-house, or do you have a marketing company that you utilize for that?
It's in-house. So what Adam's my investor relations guy. That's why I brought him on, given him some equity in the company. because it's my stick to your strengths, right? I love finding the deal, negotiating, putting the package, putting the finance together, going through the business plan. I'll walk some of the units, but I'll, more of the putting the asset together, and working through the business plan. And then obviously pitching the deal to our investors. And, Adam handles like all the investor relations, and I have Nick that handles all the operations, like from, day one, takeover, construction, like whatever that we need to have done. So, really just focus on the things that we're good at. It's what we've been managed to build at Dreamstone. So,
and from my perspective, I contract out my social media and a lot of my marketing. I do enjoy it. I enjoy that aspect, but it can be a lot, especially when you're trying to rack and stack messaging. You get on Hootsuite, and, there's like, your entire week is full of something, and you got to review that stuff to make sure that it's tight, that it's the message, that it's addressing pain points, that it's addressing your target audience that you want to work with, that you feel that you can connect with, that will allow them or facilitate them wanting to reach out. So yeah, the different strategies to get at it, but it is a large portion of getting these things done.
Yeah. Okay, I've got these questions, and then we'll open it up for one last question. So on a 506B, what are some of the, other than your advertising, what sort of problems have you run into with 506B? Like more hand-holding? What challenges have you had with 506B as opposed to, 100,000, you bring in 10 people and boom, it's done?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think starting off 506B, I think it's just one of those things. You gotta earn the t-shirt. So it's a lot of hand holding. Especially if you drop your investment amount to like 25,000. Then you have somebody that's gonna be there. Like, we've done it. We had to get a deal done. So our first couple of deals were like that, and it's like what we've learned was if that's somebody that's investing with you and you know them, and just take the time, walk them through it, because it just makes it easier for them the next time. And yes, there certainly is there's so much more efficiency in like having $100,000 minimum. Your raise is so much quicker, and you can we can take on a $26 million deal pretty easily now. It's not an issue, but you have to start in this. You have to like build the momentum. And to the question, so what CRM are you guys using? So we're using HubSpot, and then we are using a investor management system that integrates into each other. So we have two sets of communication channels to our current investors, and then to potential investors. So we tag them with different tags, so we know, okay, this person, this is the date I contacted. We have like a whole, history of that investor or potential investor.
That gets into your drip campaigns using HubSpot?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this has come up in the channel a couple of times. People ask about what CRM to use. And there are pros and cons to different CRMs, but the biggest thing to any CRM is you got to use it. You got to use it the way you got to go through your process. And like Vajano said, you got to, you could be 7 touch points, and a lot of folks just, that kind of discipline takes time. And so they want to kind of move on to the next shiny toy, and they really haven't really implemented the process that they have freely available to them, right? Because you can get into more expensive CRMs, and you can certainly get into, pay as you play options, but it's only as good as the processes that you put in place.
Yeah, true. I know we're over time here, you guys, but oh my gosh, there's just been so much you guys have shared with us. Is there anybody in the house that has a question? I know that Mark had asked about about the due diligence. Would you guys be willing to share your due diligence list? And if so, maybe you could send it to me, Ray. You could take it from Vajano if that works out.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? I mean, we could go on. Patrick, you got a question?
Yeah, you sparked my interest when you said you're outsourcing the marketing, Ray, and I was curious if you had any recommendations right now for or what companies to use or good and bad experiences you've had.
Yeah, I mean, I use Upwork for a lot of my contracting, and you just have to take the time. So I listen to Neil Bawa on some of the things that he talks about, because he uses VAs a lot, and he uses different systems to acquire that kind of talent. And so you have to have the time and put in the time to invest in those people, knowing that at any point in time they could leave, just like any other contracts come and go too. But the beautiful thing is, once you find the people that you're comfortable with, because just because it works for me, it may not work for you. But when you find people that you're comfortable with and they understand what it is that you're trying to do, then you got to document that process, because at any point in time, and it's happened to me a couple of times. So I have folks that help me with some of my blog articles, right? They write some stuff, they put some drafts together for me. I tell them what I want, and they kind of wrap it together, and then I do the final check. But if we're not in sync, I'm wasting a ton of time working with those people, only to end up having to write the article myself. And it's happened before, right? So you gotta work through that, and you gotta make sure you have some options when you do use contracts, because they can come and go. I hope that answers your questions. If not, I'm happy to get offline with you and go into some detail.
Cool. Anybody else? You guys have been so generous with your time. We've gotten so many thank yous for sharing all the details and your knowledge and information. It's super helpful and inspiring, nonetheless, inspiring. So you all know how to get a hold of Vejano and Ray. If you don't have that information, I'm going to be sending this out, and you guys can see it on the recording. Once again, thank you guys all for joining us. You take the time to invest in yourselves and invest in others, and it will come back. So appreciate your time. Again, I'll be out next week, and Mark Ferreira, another great speaker, is going to be coming. Mark is he's so talented on the Slack channel with the SDA. So bring your questions. And you guys have a great week. I appreciate your time, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.